Yo, what is poppin' my 420 army? We are doing another Christmas movie breakdown, and this time is Arthur Christmas. This this is like the only animated Christmas film in my top three. Elf, which I already did. Arthur Christmas, which we're doing now. This is animated, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which I'll try to get out before Christmas Eve. If not, you'll just have to wait till next year. But yeah, this film has some stuff happen in it where it's like, but still, it still manages to make the film funny, even though some stuff is kind of would technically be considered pointless. They really did a great job at pulling off Santa Claus. This is from Aardman, which is the same company that made Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep and Chicken Run. If you ever saw those, which they're also pretty decent, but nice to see their take on a Christmas movie. So basically, it does kind of show like all the stuff with, even though it does open in Mimosa Avenue, Trelew, with Gwen Hines putting a letter in a Santa Claus mailbox. It's like, do they actually? That's actually Gwen right there on the cover. Oh fuck, my finger's gonna. It's like, I never saw mailboxes like that in my area when I was little, with letters to Santa. But my question is, what even happens to those letters? Which, okay, obviously, I'm pretty sure everyone on this channel has stopped believing in Santa because this channel is not family friendly in the slightest. That's why I put the disclaimer that this is a 12 and up channel. And I didn't stop believing in Santa until I was 13. That's a fun fact for you. So then we see Arthur, voiced by James McGavoy. Is that how you say his name? They put the names of the actors on the back of the cover. And that's Arthur there at the top, in the letter. Who is like, he actually writes letters to all the kids. Before we cut to literally the next scene of them, like, traveling in this fucking spaceship known as the S1 with Malcolm Claus, who's the current Santa. Santa Claus the 20th, started in 1941, voiced by Jim Broadbent. Yeah, Jim Broadbent. I read the name. Yeah. And this scene is actually kind of funny. It's like, wow. This just takes me back to when I was little. And they even reuse like a train animation from Wallace and Gromit with you just like riding the train, throwing the tracks so that way you don't crash into the wall. And it's clever when they reuse animations like that in film. And this whole scene is actually pretty funny. And they're like little elves, so technically, even though I used to like, see, thing is, I used to think that you would enter through the house, like you could easily break into somebody's house using either the fireplace, toilet, or garage, which obviously Santa Claus is. See, the little kids believe Santa entered their house by going down the chimney, so it's like that's how one would break into the fireplace. And you're probably wondering, how would they break into the toilet or garage? But I'm not going to get too far off topic, but they're just delivering presents, and we cut to the North Pole, where the operation is being run by Steve, voiced by Hugh Laurie. This is the second film with Hugh Laurie that I've seen, aside from Monsters vs. Aliens. Which Steve seems like he really knows what he's doing, because apparently he's next in line for being Santa. And then that's when Arthur comes in trying to give Steve a letter. It's like trying to get letters for them, for the kids. He There's even a scene where he accidentally drops it, but then he gets the letter back. He just keeps on running through the whole crowd of elves. It's like, dude, what the fuck? But he eventually gets to Steve, shows him the letter, and he also has these like really cool slippers on his feet. They're like reindeer slippers with glowing eyes that the eyes flash like different colors, like from orange, red, blue. If they made slippers like that in real life, I'm pretty sure. My parents always say that my dog would have a heart attack if she ever saw those slippers. The little black one, Lily. I think I have shown my dogs on the channel before, and they are still alive. I'll probably have to bring them back in the video. I don't have Lily in the room with me to show you, in case you're wondering if she is still alive, which she is, and Lulu is still alive as well. But then we see kind of Steve's cynical side, where he's like, he tells Arthur not to be in mission control for the remainder of the night, and Arthur's like, okay then. And he leaves right as a waker happens. It's like, technically, I'm guessing that this waker was on the nice list, and that's why they had to hit his house. There's even an open season poster in the background. It's like... And they're trying to figure out how the fuck are we supposed to get out of here without waking up this kid, because Malcolm was resting his head on a try-me button for like a barn thing on farm toy. Steve even insists taking the batteries out. But they're like, how are we supposed to do that? They get past wrapping, box, and 14 twist ties. It's like, have we tried taking out... Even though they do get the batteries out, we even see a clip with Arthur watching TV with Grand Santa, voiced by Bill Nighy. Yeah, I mean, if you don't know who Bill Nighy is, he's... a lot of people probably already know him as Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, which... Yeah. And you remember what I said in my upcoming video for 2023. I'm doing an analysis on Davy Jones at some point in the future. Don't know what it's going to be. It might be an interactive story or a reading thing. But even though Arthur and Grand Santa are watching TV when Margaret, Malcolm's wife, voiced by... I don't even know how to say that name. Imelda Stout... I don't even... How do you pronounce that name? Brings some food, and here's something that just doesn't get the whole plot filming. So, they take the toys out of the farm toy, but apparently there's a separate battery compartment for a milkmaid. And the elder's scared, and one even aboard the S1 accidentally knocks off a bike, because of course he does. But they get out of there safe. But Santa gets out of the house safely, and then they quickly finish delivering the presents, unnoticed that the bike fell. And yes, that is relevant to the plot. Actually, if this Wakers didn't happen, then we wouldn't have this movie. So this is why this is another one of those dumb decisions that are relevant to the plot. Or, I've seen this happens in movies all the time, where there's like a dumb decision that's like, if they were smart here, we would not have this movie. This even happens with movies I like. I think I've said that before on this channel. But then they head home, and Malcolm is greeted by everyone, including Arthur and Steve. He's given a conference on how he has delivered presents throughout his Santa career, and we even get hit with some slapstick where he's like, oh yeah, many years ago, my father told me... We see Grand Santa sleeping on a chair. Actually, yeah, Bill Nighy is such a talented actor, even in animated form. Whether he's CGI form, animated form, or live action form. Unfortunately, he's already like 70, so he's probably going to be retiring soon. Or I don't know. But after the conference, the Clauses are just having a Christmas dinner, and they're going to play a game called Christmas the Board Game. It's like, imagine if they made that in real life. Yeah. And then the rapping elf Brian E., voiced by Ashley Jensen, notices the bike and is like, oh, fuck. And then we get hit with some slapstick with Grand Santa and Steve fighting over who's the Santa piece. Because obviously Grand Santa was actually Santa Claus the 19th, before Malcolm, who's Santa Claus the 20th. So they eventually start playing with, and Steve's like, fine, I'll be the candle. So he's the candle, Arthur's the turkey, Malcolm is Santa, and Grand Santa's this, like, relic. He's like, what? I used to ride Christmas in these, and he didn't need a trillion elves and hats. That's... That just shows how cocky Grand Santa was. He doesn't like the updated techno. Which is kind of relevant to his character. It's kind of relevant to his character arc in a way. But then he just says something funny that he actually was... How he managed to do it during World War II. He did the whole thing with... He did a whole Christmas delivery with 6 reindeer and a drunken elf. And he... That is just so funny. It's like, how did he... The movie doesn't say whether or not he fabricated that story or if it was true. And he tells Arthur that he was shot at, he took 12 direct hits and lost 3 reindeer. Arthur even asks what happened to the elf. And then Grand Santa replies, "Oh, he fell out of the sleigh over Lake Geneva. Never saw him again." So then Grand Santa eventually gets pissed and flips the board, and Steve leaves. And Arthur follows him, but forgets to close the door. Oh yeah, that's kind of a reoccurring gag in this film. It only happened twice, where he leaves a door open and everyone tells him, "Close the fucking door, it's cold." Because they live in the North Pole, so it's like extra cold up there. And that's when Bryony and Steve, and also Peter, who basically works with Steve a lot. Steve's like second in command. They're analyzing, how the fuck did this gift get here? So then Arthur comes in and is like, oh boy. And they realize, they check Gwen's number 47785PX. Is it PX? I think it's BXK or P. I don't know. B and P sound like literally the same. And then Arthur just runs screaming, "A child's been missed!" Actually, that scene is just hilarious. Because Steve even asks, "Do you want to wake up the whole North Pole?" That is just too funny. That's how you get this. That's how you get this. That's how you get humor in these films. It's like, I can't even talk just recording this. That's when Malcolm comes in and he's like, "What the hell is that noise?" Arthur shows the bike. It's like that they missed a child, and they're like, "Oh boy." Then there's a bunch of arguing on how to get the gift there, which just goes nowhere. Even with Steve mimicking, Peter mimicking Bryony. And they say, "Yeah, but it's impossible. We can't deliver the gift tonight." Even though the letter Gwen said, "Please do not bring my bike if it makes the reindeer burn." And see, Arthur actually did write back to Gwen saying that he can do it without the sleigh burning. Or the S1 in this case. So then Arthur literally just trashes his office looking for the letter, unaware that he hung it up above his desk. And then we have a quick scene with Malcolm talking with Margaret after lights out before exchanging some gifts and then going to sleep. And of course, Arthur's still rambling on to the point that Grand Santa even comes into the office. And then Grand Santa's like, "Haha, your brother's fancy pants technology made him so dumb that he... Oh shit, he missed a child." Yeah. Another reason why you probably stopped believing in Santa, because I'm swearing a little bit, so that's why. Another reason why this channel is a 12 plus. That's why I put the 12 and up disclaimer on my channel. So then Grand Santa is like, "There is a way we can deliver the present." And Arthur is like, "How?" So Grand Santa takes him to the sleigh barn with the old sleigh. It's like, yeah, that's how little kids stereotype Santa, riding on a sleigh with 8 reindeer. So then Grand Santa brings in the magic dust to prove that they can fly there, and gets the 8 reindeer. He's like, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer. The other 5 he missed are Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it's listed as Santa's reindeer being named. But he comes up with, but instead of the last 5 names, he says Bambi, John, you with the white ear. What the where did he get those names from? And he even tries blowing a horn to get their attention without a dead rat in it. And then Arthur's like, yes, you can go to Gwen and deliver the last presents. And then Grand Santa just says, dude, you're coming with me. And he even reveals that he's 136. It's like, bro, how the fuck is this man still alive if he's 136? I don't know, I've just... See, because this is just, like, personal, but I've kind of stereotyped myself that I'm gonna die when I'm between the ages of 85 and 95. That's just what I've predicted. I've said it, and I'm sticking to it. So then Arthur is like, no, I can't go. I cannot go on this sleigh. And he just keeps going. And then literally next scene, he's like, yep, he had second thoughts. We're going on the sleigh. They fly out. And Grand Santa even is just showing off and telling Arthur, who's kind of scared at first, like, how he described, like, to his father. It's like, aw, it's just some beautiful scene to, like, take the imagery and how the history of the Clauses went. And guess what? You would think they have a map, and it even shows, like, timestamps of, like, where they are in a specific location, like, what time. It did so earlier with Denmark earlier in the film. They saw up in Denmark, and then again when they flew back to the North Pole. And the aforementioned scene with Arthur going through letters was December 2nd, and then Gwen putting the letter in the mailbox was November 25th. So, yeah. It's like, ooh, we're getting, like, a date stamp of, like, how everything is done in one night. It's like... So, here's the funny part. They almost crash into the... Arthur and Grand Santa almost crash into the CN Tower. Yes, I recognize the CN Tower, because I actually... I even though this is probably like the million... If you're fans of the channel, you already know that I'm Canadian. So they're just flying through Toronto with a bunch of shenanigans, which is kind of funny. Involves Grand Santa turning Evie, the sleigh, into a steam train and a house. And they also end up crashing into a giant inflatable Santa Claus, which... bursts too because of the reindeer pricking it with their horns or antlers. And also Grand Santa has his own reindeer, and he's actually missing one. This thing right here. Notice how he's actually missing one of his antlers. I think that's the cane Grand Santa uses to move around. And it turns out Bryony was hiding in the hood of the sleigh. And then what's so funny is when Grand Santa just tosses her out, she gets back in, and they realize they're missing a reindeer, which broke loose when they crashed into the giant inflatable Santa. It's like, wow, they lost... You can actually kind of see that the reindeer is missing when Bryony is in the hood. It's like... Hinting is like, had they noticed the reindeer is missing? It was like, oh, now they notice it. Steve gets a phone call from Peter back at the North Pole, and is like, what the heck? The sleigh barn was sealed up decades ago. After Grand Santa snuck out, and... Well, at least he's too old these days to get in trouble. Or is he? So then they make a pit stop in... So then Arthur and Grand Santa and Bryony, technically, they make a pit stop in Idaho to steal a fake reindeer. It's like, okay, this is kind of pointless, but... kind of funny at the same time. It's like, you do realize they would have made it to Trelew a lot sooner if they hadn't made that stop in Idaho. And what was the point even getting that reindeer? And Grand Santa says that it's because it was for Gwen, so that it could be everything. The sleigh on the roof, the jingle bells, the 8 reindeer, and they even alert somebody who just happened to be living in that area. Arthur tries to distract him, and I guess... them trying to leave ended up breaking the lights and causing him look like a UFO, so the guy realizes, holy fuck, I just encountered an alien. So get this, they're flying through the sky, and they land in what they think is France, but nope, it's Africa, and they get ambushed by lions. Is England even on this map? It's like, you can't even read a map, it's getting you lost. First you get lost in Toronto, then you stop in Idaho, then you fly all the way to Africa, and Grand Santa says, He's too young to die. Dude, you're old as fuck. You should be dead. Okay, that's probably sounded a little too harsh, but you get the point. And of course, we cut back to North Pole where Steve is like, how the hell did they get that sleigh out? It should have been chopped up. So then this other elf who worked with Grand Santa, he's like old as shit. Carrying this like communicator so he can communicate with Grand Santa, and Steve is rushed. He's like, would you just hurry the hell up so we can talk to him? Okay. So then it's like, so your plan to put the lions to sleep is sing Silent Night, which fails because the communicator came out before they can even get back in the sleigh, and they get chased by the lions again. Don't worry, they escape, and then they send all the animals in Africa flying because they lost 2 more reindeer. It's like, oh good, now they gotta stop to get some more fake reindeer. It's like, nope, they don't even bother to make a stop for more fake deer this time. They just fly right for Trelew. Or so they think. Back to the North Pole, a power outage is caused. It's like... So they land in Trelew. I mean... They land in Trelew, Arthur takes the present because Grand Santa refuses to get out of the sleigh. They didn't even land on the roof of the house, they just walk the rest of the way. So they have the right address, right? They get inside, which is technically a form of breaking and entering, because apparently Bryony was able to fit through a pet door and unlock the door. It's like, also, why is the alarm going off? It's like, also, wrapping it with wrapping paper will not disable the alarm. You'd have to shoot it with a gun, is what I've learned from Grand Theft Auto, but it's, this is a kid's movie, so they probably wouldn't go that far with shooting an alarm. But then they see the tree, and it's like, wow, you're even... At least you are somewhat wise, and like... And then they realize there's already a bike present, and then that... Under the tree, and then it all of a sudden hits them, oh my god, we're in the wrong house. It's like, what? So, right address, but wrong house. How does that even happen? After they escape, Arthur had to give up one of his slippers to a dog. It's like, at least you actually put in the address. But then, unfortunately, you got a list of Trelews and you just clicked on the first one. How many Trelews are there in the world? Which, by the way, it gives us another timestamp that they're actually... The Trelew they're in is actually located in Mexico, as opposed to England. So it's like, how many Trelews are there? There's one in Mexico, there's one in England. What next? Because they said there was a whole list. Maybe if you had scrolled down the list and saw, aha, Trelew, England. Bam. And this time, even the cops are involved, because there's even a news report that all the carnage Arthur and Grand Santa caused, it got on the news too, including... That even goes for the fake deer that they stole in Idaho and the Santa Claus they burst in Toronto. And it even shows like the whole route they took. That's just craziness. They cut through Greenland, were first spotted in Toronto, then they go to Idaho, then Africa, then Mexico. But they escape Mexico and lose another reindeer, by the way. So they've lost 4 reindeer now. And then Steve calls them. They're calling Steve, and Grand Santa also revealed that he just came just to show that, just so he could deliver the present his way. And Steve even is doing, it's like, dude, you've been seen by everyone on the fucking planet. Come home now. So basically, it even has, like, them cuffed up, so technically they were resisting. That's like a Santa who resisted arrest. And, Arthur's like, no, Dad's laying awake chewing his beard off about Gwen, but then Steve plays a voicemail to prove otherwise, and they're like, what? How? Oh, but then the sleigh flips over and they're stranded on some desert island. And then... By the way, they just relax on the island. Which, by the way, it's in Cuba. It's like, so this is where the midpoint turn really comes in. Because Arthur thinks it's nice to get away from the Christmas fuss, and... Also back in Mexico, Grand Santa revealed that he took Evie out during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I actually checked this on Wikipedia, but the Cuban Missile Crisis he mentioned was actually a thing that happened in real life. It's like, wow. I just saw an article to it. I didn't read the article yet, but I'll probably do that off camera. Read the article and see how accurate it is. And then, back at the North Pole, Malcolm is confronted by all his elves. It's like, you missed a child, and the child doesn't matter, but Arthur and Grand Santa went to take it. And it turns out Margaret actually heard the whole thing, because as soon as Arthur's name was mentioned, she was like, what does Arthur have to do with any of this? So they confront Steve about it. And this scene, it's like, yeah, you're kind of making Steve look like a little bit of a cunt here, but basically, he's like, I've festivized every single country in the world. This one, all of them. Who the hell cares about one single tiny child? Yes, he literally says that. Malcolm confronts him and is like, how the fuck could you let Arthur go out on his own? And Steve is like, yeah. And then he just leaves. And by the way, he sang an actual song, but it took me a while to realize, because maybe he was trying to sing his own version, or Hugh Laurie is just a terrible singer. My apologies on that, in case Hugh Laurie is watching this, and he's like, how dare you criticize my singing? I am going to take you down like Hector Alcazar. Okay. 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 No, you're not. Sorry. Sorry, Hugh Laurie. But Malcolm leaves, heads to Arthur's office, and he's just sitting there reading through all the letters. He's like, man. It's like, that's where Malcolm realizes that maybe he should have listened to Arthur. That's part of the midpoint turn, and the next midpoint turn comes up. They're still on the island. Gwen's letter shows up. Bryony throws the letter in the fire, but Arthur realizes, wait! This isn't Dad, Grand Santa, or Steve in this photo. It's the actual Santa. As long as the bite gets to Gwen before she wakes up, then Santa came. And then that's when Grand Santa's pet reindeer dog thing shows up with Arthur's slipper that he threw in the water. So then they take a rowboat that was just sitting under a tree. And also, it was so funny that they actually wrote, sorry I borrowed this, in the sand where the rowboat was. Which, we get a timestamp of them rowing the Atlantic Ocean. And then they have 3,000 miles to reach Trelew. And Grand Santa says that Arthur has gotten sleigh fever, and that Santa Claus the 16th got it, and every child in the year 1802 had a sausage nailed to a piece of bark. And Arthur's positive he just has to keep going, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's impossible to row the Atlantic Ocean in 37 minutes. Let alone 3,000 miles. Everyone I've asked has said no, because what do you think? They were just in a stranded rowboat going around in circles. Even the alien task force has gotten involved. But then Arthur is given like a grappling hook of some sort to hook onto the sleigh as it's coming towards them, because Grand Santa mentioned that. So Arthur has to crack some magic dust, which he's worried about, so then he has to have Grand Santa and Bryony worry him. So anyway, he's floating up in the sky, and then Bryony just explodes into this, like, worry rant, which goes on for literally... I mean, I honestly haven't timed how long it goes on for, but I'd say probably about 25 seconds. That's just a guess, 25 seconds. I'm going to say 25 seconds until I find out how long it actually goes on for. Before Grand Santa puts his hand over Bryony's mouth and says that Gwen may never build a snowman again. But Arthur successfully latches onto the sleigh. Unfortunately, the ribbon snaps. So, and then Grand Santa and Bryony are just kind of chatting with each other while Arthur's trying to retrieve the sleigh. And Bryony even asks, why didn't they chop up the sleigh like they originally planned? And Grand Santa said it was because he threatened the elves and said he'd feed them to the polar bears. He even says something like, "Why not tell Arthur's parents about all this?" And also, Arthur manages to get back in the sleigh, but not without losing another reindeer. So now they only have 3 reindeer left. He gets the sleigh turned around, picks up Grand Santa and Bryony, but unfortunately, they lose the GPS after Bryony accidentally throws it in the water. Also, it was called the Ho Ho 3000. She said earlier in Africa that she used it for pictures of bows, and she was using it as a GPS to get them to Trelew, and that's also how Steve was able to call them earlier. So then they fly up into space, and it's like, why didn't they do this sooner? But back at the North Pole, Malcolm decides, you know what, I'm going to track down Arthur and Father, because obviously Grand Santa is Malcolm's dad. They decide, let's fire up the S1, track down Arthur and Grand Santa. But then, of course, he said that he told Steve, but then Steve immediately runs into the S1. He's like, dude, what the fuck? You damaged the S1. Malcolm and Grand Santa argue for a bit before Malcolm gets hit with an airbag and is like, here, you drive. And here's where Steve kind of starts to... Might be a little bit too soon, but he decides, I'll deliver this gift myself. And we'll pick up Arthur and Grand Santa from whatever ditch they've ended up in. It's like, well, the bike is on them, so then they get this fake purple knockoff bike. And the elves are panicking that they're leaving. It's like, it's kind of funny. But either way, they even start a North Pole meltdown, too. Claiming that, oh no, it's 1816 all over again, which there was actually an incident mentioned earlier in the film where Santa was spotted in 1816 and he had to exile from the North Pole for 6 years. But either way, after Arthur and Grand Santa go up into space, they enter the atmosphere, but unfortunately, they crash. And the alien task force is on them, while the lead lady, Chief De Silva, is that how you say her name? She's talking with everyone, and they're ready to save the planet. And unfortunately, and also, by the way, they lose the last of... Arthur and Grand Santa lose the last of their reindeer, and then Grand Santa's reindeer dog thing has to take over. So then, Grand Santa realizes that Arthur was right. It doesn't matter how long it takes the present to get there. That's part of his character arc. He's like, it doesn't even matter if it's the postman in his spaceship, which he literally called Steve that earlier in the film. So then he disguises Evie as a UFO. And this scene was kind of funny. They started singing Jingle Bells. And they're being chased by the plane. So then they try to figure out a plan how to get down there. Actually, that was before the... Well, they're still being chased by the plane. Bryony shoots it with some candies. Arthur parachutes out. Bryony joins him, and then Grand Santa immediately dives out of Evie right before the sleigh gets blown up. And so either way, you think they saved Christmas? Well, that's what they say. And then Arthur lands in a bunch of bushes. I mean, there's no leaves on the bushes. It's like, ouch. Oh, and here's the funny part. Steve actually made the same mistake as Arthur. He put in Trelew, went to the exact same house that Arthur and Bryony went to earlier, tries to give away the fake purple bike. It's like, yeah, that wasn't even the bike one asked for. That's a purple knockoff brand, not the pink twinkle bike that she asked for. And then the kid even has a tantrum. But then, cut back to Arthur, he decides, I can make it there in 3 minutes if I ride this bike. Which, literally, he does that. He just rides the bike to the house. And the elves see Arthur on the plasma back in the North Pole, and he's like, he's delivering the present. And by the way, Grand Santa landed in a dumpster. It's like, yeah, this scene's kind of cringy. It's like, yeah, that scene is kind of funny. He landed in a dumpster, but he survived. It's like, it's always kind of cringy when people land on garbages because you don't know what's in those bags. There could be broken glass, there could be metal, there could be pretty much something even very sharp in garbage bags. That's why it's kind of cringy. And Steve comes back on the S1. He's like, Yeah, I made the same mistake as Arthur. You put in the address, saw a list of Chirlus, and just clicked on the first one. The elves call from the North Pole and say that Arthur is still going. It's like, yes, he made it. But then Bryony catches up with Arthur finally, and then starts wrapping the bike as they near Gwen's house. And also, how was Arthur able to estimate that Gwen lives near a church just from looking at the postcard that was sent? Which, by the way, the postcard was hand drawn. That scene's just too funny. They're sliding, and Bryony's wrapping up the present. They reach Gwen's house, but unfortunately, there's sunlight. But then, luckily, the S1 arrives at that moment, and everyone goes into the house. And Grand Santa even rides in the garbage bin that he landed in on his way there. Arthur puts a ribbon in Gwen's room, leads it downstairs where he's reunited with Malcolm, and then we even get a last bit nab of Arthur and Grand Santa arguing again before Arthur puts the present under the tree where the ribbon leads to it. And this scene's funny with Grand Santa just dumping the garbage. So then they quickly hide in the closet and watch as Gwen opens her present. It's like, yep, you just barely made it. That's why they really had a good fake out moment there. Jeez, this is getting as long as my Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest breakdown, and this film is like that film's twice as long as this one. But either way, while they're in the closet watching, Malcolm tells Steve that he deserves to be Santa, but Steve ultimately changes his mind and says, "No, I'll just stick with being the candle," and he ends up giving the Santa piece to Arthur. That's really a good play at Steve's character arc. He just wants to be Santa, but then he decides, nah, I don't need it. Well, again, this film is called Arthur Christmas, so that technically is why it would be great. But then as everyone's leaving, Peter reveals that he always liked Arthur. And then Gwen gets on her bike, notices Arthur for like a brief second, because he hit a tree branch as he was going up, and he got snow on his face, looked like Santa. And then they leave, while Gwen's happily riding her bike. It's like, now, I've never tried riding a bicycle in the snow, but I don't think it'd be kind of sturdy. Well, plus, it had training wheels on it, so... Well, I haven't ridden a bicycle in 10 years, so I'd be kind of rusty riding one. And then we get, like, technically during the credits, it, like, shows what happened the following year, with Steve gaining an armchair companion while he assists Arthur, Grand Santa playing Christmas the board game with Malcolm, Bryony wrapping presents, planning to wrap the moon, which, by the way, she's holding a pair of scissors. That's actually the same pair of scissors that she used earlier in Mexico when trying to cut Arthur free from the tape after he taped himself into Evie. And also all of Grand Santa's reindeer made it back to the North Pole. Which, yeah, this film is absolutely hilarious. Puts a totally unique spin on the Santa Claus aspect. Like, yeah, this film is just so funny. It's like, are they gonna... it really has you racing through the film. It's like, are they gonna deliver the present to Gwen before she wakes up at 7:39, which they said the sun would be up by then. It's like, they only have 2 hours to get to Trelew, deliver the present, and... yeah. That's why this film is really great, and it's another holiday classic. Because the character arc of how they portray Steve is good, even Grand Santa's character arc is played very well. Him realizing, this new way delivering presents is too stupid, but then he realizes, no, it doesn't matter. Arthur's right, it does not matter how the gift gets there. It could be a postman in a spaceship, it could be a sleigh, hell, it could even be a fairy delivering presents. Okay, no. Alright. But, yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you think of this film? I mean, I don't know how many people have even seen this. But, either way, hope you... let me know in the comments if you guys agree with me on this film. Do you recommend watching it? Which, I totally 100% recommend this. Every Christmas season, I alternate between which film I watch first every single year. The odd years is 2022, so I watched Christmas Vacation first this year, so that means Next year, I'm going to be watching this first once November 1st rolls around. Yes, I start my Christmas movie watching on November 1st, and it's sometime before the 24th. And, yeah. That's basically it for this film, and I'll try to get out Christmas Vacation before next year. Before in the next 11 days or so. But either way, please like, comment, share, sub, and peace.